Alright, welcome back to another lecture series by Firestarter Graphics and Engineering. Today we're going to be going over something a little bit different than my usual aerospace engineering CAD instructions or other type of fun stuff like that. Today we're actually going to be talking about something old school and kind of dear to my heart, but not at the same time, cybersecurity. So before I went into aerospace, I used to be a cybersecurity engineer and network engineer. Did it for about, 4 or 5 years. Started in 2003. Did a bachelor's in network engineering, cybersecurity, and then worked for the Department of Defense for about 3-4 years, and then I was tired, burned out. It was not what I wanted to do. So what I really wanted to do was be an aerospace engineer and get involved with rockets, planes, trains, cars, and some biomedical stuff. So that's what I did. I went back to school, started doing that. I'm actually almost done. I'm doing my doctorate level research right now, and it's in aerospace and biomedical engineering. So some good times, really good times. But I wanted to review some of my old information, kind of review network engineering and cybersecurity a little bit, because even though I didn't really like it then as a career choice, as a hobby, I really like it. So I just kind of wanted to review it. So that's what this next few videos and series is going to be about, is kind of my journey through my first pen test box. Now I have a virtual lab set up at home. It is completely ethical and legal, what I'm doing. So if you follow along, please make sure what you're doing is legal and ethical. Do not scan public networks unless you have 100% explicit permission to do so, signatures to do so, and multiple copies of permission. Stick with scanme.nmap.org and just stick with your own personal equipment. It's just safer. So again, this is just my little journey. So every video you see will just be me testing things and trying new things out. There's going to be lots of mistakes. There's going to be some downtime, some slow time trying to figure things out. This is not a tutorial at all. This is just me going through my first pen test box just to see if I can do it, and I thought I would record it because a beginner recording his information and sharing it with another beginner might be able to help. But as I've gone through this, one thing I've learned is that project management is very important. Now, as an aerospace engineer, I've done a lot of project management. I am a Six Sigma Green and Black Belt. So if you don't know what that is, go ahead and look it up. But the first couple of videos are going to be all about project management. And I'm going to try to do this in 15 minutes, maybe 20, and see if I can do it in one video. So let's talk about project management kind of briefly. So when it comes to cybersecurity, we have something called the project management body of knowledge. But before we get into this section, let's talk about something with project management just a little bit before we hammer it down to cybersecurity. So you heard me mention Six Sigma. So if you Google Six Sigma Council, you can go to the self-study training for free, and you can use these books, read them, take the quizzes in the book, and then pay the $300 and get your actual certification. This is like the gold standard of project management. If you have this, then you're golden. So you're just going to go down. There's Six Sigma, but the one you want, not you, but the one that is geared towards manufacturing, engineering, and IT is Lean Six. So the one I did was the black belt and the green belt. Now, this is more of an improvement process type of management. Take, for example, a water bottle. That's what I'm looking at. It's where can you improve the production of this. Let's say you're making 1 million of them, but there's a defect in it. How do we get rid of these defects, or how do we make it stronger? Like, we pick one specific thing and make it better. Another good example, my capstone for my master's was building a rocket with, I had 2 capstones. I had one for my bachelor's, one for my master's, and then one for my associates, so 3 of them. So 2 of them were building rockets. So for the bachelor's, it was building a rocket. For the master's, it was building another rocket, doing something different. So anyways, we had to build a rocket that could hit 20,000 feet with an air braking system called an active drag system. And it's to do a project like that, you wouldn't use Lean Six Sigma. You would use what they would call the iterative Scrum method. Now I'll get back to Lean Six here in just a second, but let's look at what this is. And this is more of the process that follows for a pen test or something in IT. I would read this article. It's at smartsheet.com. You saw what I googled, the iterative Scrum method, and then I went to images and clicked on that logo. So I would read this, and this is important to know. Iteration 1, planning, analysis, implementation, testing, review. Iteration 2, wash, rinse, repeat. And you just keep doing this over and over until you have something. And the Scrum method right here, the Scrum cycle, and you do this over and over and over until the project is done. This works great with certain processes. With other processes, it does not. So with a rocket build, like, hey, we have all the parts we need, let's put it together, let's build it, and let's do the simulations, let's do the mathematics, let's do all the drag calculations, and then go launch it and test it. That follows this Scrum process, the iterative Scrum process. But during that process, let's say you're building it from scratch, and you're like, okay, I just used 1/4-inch plywood and I laser cut it to cut the fins, and I'm getting a lot of drag. How can we make that better? Lean Six Sigma is perfect for make this fin better with less drag so that we can achieve higher speeds, higher altitudes. Okay, so sand the fin down and then put a finish, maybe put epoxy on it so it's smooth, and then water sand it. Okay, drag is down. What else could we do? Oh, the leading and trailing edges are flat. Why don't we put an airfoil on those fins? Okay, drag has now reduced. Well, now it's heavier, so what if we were to switch to a 3D printed fin with airfoil and then finish that? Because of all the layer lines, we put epoxy on that. Or what if we used fiberglass fin? And then even Lean Six Sigma works great with what type of epoxy to use for holding everything together. Do we want to weld? Do we want epoxy? Do we want to, wood glue? What's going to be the best? That's where Lean Six Sigma comes in. So with that in mind, for pen test and cybersecurity, most likely iterative Scrum cycle. So let's go back to some notes that I've been taking from project management standpoint of cybersecurity. So there's something called the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK, and it has 5 different life cycles: initiating, planning, executing, closing, monitoring, and controlling. And we'll focus here on those in just a minute, but something I want to talk about is this ISSAF. It's old. Came out in 1987, but it was updated up until 2006. But it's very trusty. This is one of the, it's like my favorite framework to follow, even though there's like 2 or 3 of them. I just prefer this one. And what I mean by framework is a structure that's set up to run a pen test. This is actually a peer-reviewed document that is about 1,200 pages, start to finish, of how you run it from a project management stance, how you run it from the pen tester, and what to document. So really important. So here's the link for that. You can just Google ISSAF, and it's from Untrusted Network. But when I did that, I also found this group. I have forgotten about these guys, but I used to use them all the time. I used to follow some of their advice way back in the day, 20 years ago. So I'm glad I stumbled back upon it. So you have what you call the pen testing execution standards. This is kind of the 7 phases that you go through for the pen test. This is also covered in the ISSAF network. But there's one more framework, this open source security testing methodology manual. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's good. But these 2 I like a lot, but the first one I really like. This group has its own WSTG. You can, on the right hand side, you can see all this stuff you can go through. This is their own framework and methodology. But what is this one? Yeah, this one is what theirs does. It goes through this, which is nice, as VoIP has some new stuff in it. And then this one, the ISSAF, it's got a lot that it goes through. And this one goes through some other stuff. So using all three will yield pretty good results. Because it says VoIP, Citrix, Cisco, Bluetooth, some really good things that may not be covered in the other. Okay, so this is for a pen tester to use and to follow. And I say, okay, this is the area, not the area, this is the routine, the route, the path to follow. Now, if you're a project manager or you're curious about it, and I suggest if you're a pen tester or not a project manager, I suggest that you still read up on it to see how the project manager is going to run things. They're going to follow a structure very most likely like this. The initiating process group. You have a develop project charter and identify stakeholders. And here's some snippets about it. Now, there's a difference between stakeholders and sponsors and clients and stuff. Key stakeholders are like the CEO of the company, the people who own it and have the money and want the business to succeed, even though every employee wants it to succeed, but those are the key stakeholders. Now, if you're working with the IT department or a rental department or sales, those are the ad hoc members. Those are groups you're going to be working with to help you accomplish the pen test. Like, what if the attack is going on in sales? Well, then you're going to be working with the sales manager, be like, hey, let me know what's going on. And I'll try to explain some cool things that I've learned from other users about how to, some tips and tricks. For example, if you can give someone a, let's say you have a web page, and it's your own web page. It's like, johnspentest.com. And you can save that web page to someone's desktop as an icon. And you tell them, hey, anytime you see the attack happening or you recognize any type of suspicious behavior, double click this icon and it will open up my web page. And so then what you do is you open up Wireshark if you're doing a packet capture, and then you can go find where your web page was hit, because that shows the timestamp and everything, and then you can follow to see if there's any suspicious activity. It's just kind of a fun way and an easier way to look through packet traces if you've been doing packet capturing. So then you have the planning process group. You have about 20 items right here. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and then I'll just pause the video, read each one. So you have things like quantitative and qualitative analysis. There is a difference between the two. It's like if you give someone a report saying, hey, all these attacks are happening from, some famous country, China. They're all happening from China. We'd expect that. We'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But if we were to give someone a list of, no, all the attacks are coming from Antarctica, then we're going to have to start analyzing differently and seeing if we've messed something up or if they're using some type of way to cover their tracks and make it look like it's from Antarctica, etc. So, lots of different things to kind of keep in mind. Just go ahead and pause the video and read each one of these. There's a lot, but it's really helpful information to run a beginning pen test. Okay, the next section is called the executing process group. This is where you plan, you do something, you check something, and then you act. And then you do it again. Wash, rinse, repeat. Same thing, develop your team, distribute information. Here's some bullet points. Go ahead and read those. And then the final one is, nope, not final. The second to last is the closing process group. We have close the project or phase and close procurements, get ready for deliverables. Then monitoring and controlling, we have all of these. And if you're not a project manager, you don't need to memorize these. You just need to understand them because this is what the project manager is probably going to do. But if you're solo and you're doing this yourself, then you'd probably want to understand these. So, okay, that should be everything. All right, so knowing these basic bullet points and going through this website is very handy. Now let's look at the ISSAF for the last concept. Okay, so what I like is going through the framework. Actually, first let's see. If we go to About ISSA, if you can go through here, read the executive summary, but what's really important is this document structure. This is a way of how to write the report, just one way. And then I can show you how to write a report here in a moment. That's how my rocket was written. The 5 phases we just discussed, you're going to kind of, put those in here somewhere. You have the introduction, objective, expected results, methodology, and then description, what you did, countermeasures, contributors, further readings. This is kind of how a report should be written. I usually do it like introduction, which is, or executive summary, or abstract, whatever you want to call it, the objective, and then I say, here's what we scanned, here's the results. Now, if you get something back with bad passwords, don't say, this person has bad passwords, you should do this, this, and this. Keep it completely unbiased. Say, hey, there are bad passwords, this is what you should do. You need to enforce a better password policy type of situation. You want to keep it professional. You don't want to sit there and point fingers and get people fired unless it's like a 15th offense. I don't know how many offenses, but make sure your target audience, you write it to the correct audience. But yeah, the document structure is really important for your report. Then on the framework, this kind of discusses how the planning works. Phase 1 planning, information gathering, project chartering. This is really helpful information to go through and how it's going to run. The assessment, the inherent risk management or assessment. And then there's some other chapters, but section B, this is where things really take off. So this is where you actually carry out the pen test. You've done all the prep work, and phase B is where it happens. So I would read all of section B if you can. And then, there's just so much information. Section C is everything explained. I don't know why this wasn't section B. To me, it should be reversed. Section C explained, hey, this is what it means, and then you do it, but oh well. So passive information gathering, really, really important when you want to enumerate a host or find out. You could do this for any company you want. You can just find out as much information as you can about that company. Google them, check Facebook groups, news groups, who is information, find their contact information, email them. You don't even have to email them. You don't have to even be in contact. This is just trying to get as much information as you can. Like this, the target's not probed at all. So, very interesting way of doing things. Well, it's not interesting. It's the way to do things, but I find it interesting. And then network mapping, really important. This will teach you some good things in here. Identify live hosts. Section C for the actual pen test, or just doesn't tell you how to do it. It's just a structure and a guide. Maintaining access. Password and security testing. I doubt it shows any type of code to run, but we'll figure that out when we do our pen test. I've never done this, so we'll figure it out. And let's see, is there anything else we need to look? Is there anything Ooh, pen testing lab. Oh, VMware, yeah, this came out when VMware first came out. There might be something on reporting, templates, and others. Oh, yes. This is really important. There are so many templates in here that you can look at, and go through. So much stuff. The questionnaire, forever long. So some really good information on this. There might be a section on reporting that I missed, so I'd look through that and see if you can find it. Anyway, excellent structure to follow, so that's what I would do. Okay, so the next set of videos and lectures will be the actual journey of doing this test. So, thank you for watching, and until next time.